This is Trudy Stewart. I'm one of the multimedia producers, directors, co-writers of the documentary RIIS from Amnesia.
My name is Janine Windolph, and I'm also one of the multimedia producers, co-directors of RIIS for Amnesia, which we're watching now, and been part of the project for 1.5 years now.
Yeah, it's August 30th. We've been working on this for over 1.5 years now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I really like about this scene here, it actually reminds me of when we brought my son on set, and he was enjoying being part of the process and getting the camera out. I think he got a little bit of sunstroke though, because he didn't make it to the second part where we went off to the cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first time I heard about RIIS was actually January 2014, and that was the first time I ever found out they had a residential school here. So now it's been about 1.5 years doing research and learning about the topic, and watching it again just kind of helps put the whole year in perspective. The cemetery is actually really important to me. I go there often. I had actually lost someone, so going there I started to think about Regina history and what it means. So when we did this project and I seen the graveyard on Pinky Road, I wanted to come here too, because I felt like you seen how they took care of their settler ancestors. And do you remember what it said when I showed you the tour book?
Oh yeah. And this is was at least on the City of Regina website. I'm not sure if it is anymore, but they give you a self-guided tour, and so you see the people, the founding fathers of Regina, listed in the tour guide. And the number one most notable grave in the Regina Cemetery is that of the first white man born in Regina, and that's his notable accomplishment. Project started with Don Rolke, Mark Dieter, and Jody Payant, and they had brought us on in January. Mark got busy with some other things and left.
Regina was being developed when the Regina Industrial School started, and so part of that history of them building the school and them starting the city of Regina kind of all parallel together, even though technically the Regina Industrial School was never on Regina property until just recently, but it's remains.
Yeah, and this actually in our focus groups was the scene that people responded to the most. And this was a day when we went out to the cemetery with Janine's father, Jake Windy Hair, and his sister, Lynn Delorme. They have, well, you can explain it probably better than me, their abilities.
Well, we all have natural abilities. They talk about their clan, where they're from. They're from the Witigu clan, and they have a deep connection to the ancestral and the spirits. And so I trust them when I go, because that's how I also learned to go to sites, was through my family, and to visit and to reconnect. And when they went there, they said that the energy there is pretty strong and that there's still a lot of unrest that's settled there. And so I've been going to the site with Trudy and different groups over and over again. I really wanted to have my family by my side too, because I trust their instinct, and I also trust their guidance, because they've been the ones to help me understand the Southern protocols and how they do their, which is kind of backwards, but to how to respect the other way as well. So we knew that in this project, we were going to be breaking protocols, not consciously, but in the process of. But I was always taught that protocols are meant to be broken only if they're done for a lesson, and only if you understand why and how you've done that, so you can teach others in the process of what you've done. So we're dealing with 43 communities, and the diversity among the groups made it hard to have one right way of doing things. So right away, I knew we were going to have many ways of doing things.
Yeah, and one of the, I think, notable things about when we were out there shooting this, besides me being annoyed at my shaky handheld, but we were recording them walking around the cemetery, and they were talking in Cree to each other, and then they were turned to us and asked, "What birds are around here?" And we couldn't answer that. They were asking if there was nests, and we're thinking maybe geese. I don't know, and we couldn't think of any birds that were around here, and we weren't sure why they were asking. And then, probably about 5 or 10 minutes later, a plane flew overhead, and then we realized that the airport is just pretty close to the cemetery, and it's on a number of flight paths. So we figured that that's what they meant, was the birds. They kept saying the birds are too loud. That's what Jake and Lynn said the children were saying to them. And so that's why they were asking if there were birds.
And the plane became a metaphor throughout the film too, because it almost was that flying away and that spiritual seeing the world from above. And I know we had wanted to do some helicopter shots because we also wanted to see the site as one would see it from the spirit world, but also from a bird's eye point of view. And when we were listening to Brad's song, which comes in later, he had that same kind of part in his song that kind of came back to. So in a way, we've seen a lot of people do their ceremonies throughout the year, and in a sense they are flying away, because those who've chosen to pass because of the guidance of the cultural leaders and medicine people who came throughout the year, they've all helped to kind of release that spirit. But also you get a sense of peace there now, because now when we're going there, it doesn't feel the same way that it did when we went there back in February 2014. It was a very lonely and dark site when we first went there.
Yeah, it felt very desolate. It was, we had to wear snowshoes, I remember, because the snow was so deep, and it was really cold and lonely.
We just drove past there shooting the I Remember music video, and I was surprised to see that someone had been there and mowed the lawn, and it's starting to look nice and green, and it has more of it's come a long way from the energy that we get from this site here.
Yeah, and Michael Dobransky, we actually was quite late in the project when we were contacted by one of the church members who actually knew him, and he had said that he wanted to be interviewed or credited for some of the, I don't know if work is the right word, but he had seen that they were developing that area in the news, and he contacted the news and said, "You can't develop there because there's a cemetery." So we met him out on the site one day, and that's the other thing about the recordings, is that we really, really needed to get people on the site. So we knew that, being on the prairie, it being a windy day, that there were some sacrifices, to sound that we were going to have to make. But he was so excited to be there, okay? And you could tell that it was a really special place to him. And him and his family actually came to one of the focus group meetings, and his partner, I think of 17 years or something like that, had said that he took her to the site on their first date.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he was really great to meet. And what I really like about meeting each kind of storyteller we've met along the way is they all help fill in gaps. And it doesn't matter what background they come from. That site has impacted many people. There's been many things that happened out there. There was the murder that happened there with Pamela George, that my dad actually, that's a cousin of his, and shared. And he pointed right to the spot from the site where that happened. And so when we went there with him, he had his own memories. He sat there and he said, this is where the auto wrecker was. So getting people right on the land, it's been something that I've done in a lot of my films, and part of what I learned is you can trigger a lot of memories when you bring people onto a site, and you get a more natural reaction. So even though, like on this day, we knew we could have put them in a car, I think we said we could sit in the van and take your interview, but in hindsight, we just really wanted to read our storytellers to get their body language, to see how they connect, and that makes it more wholesome to me because that's the more real part of this project.
Yeah, that's something that I think we learned also when we worked for the TRC, because when they were training us, we were told not to interrupt them for any reason. So if, say, somebody's earrings were jangling, they said, just leave it, So I think that the more kind of intrusive you can be to your storyteller, the less they end up giving you, a genuine story.
So this here is Nadim, and he's a representative of the land site. And so I met him earlier on in June on this day. And also behind him there is Lisa from Stantec. And so she was actually great to meet. And we also met another lady there, Paula Akus, who became a big part of the RIIS Commemorative Association. And all are working towards securing and protecting the site. And it's been a long journey. Mm-hmm. And we were hoping that we would be able to see the results of it through the finale of this film, but it didn't quite happen. Mm-hmm. But we now are a non-profit organization, and we've been working to share stories, so I think we'll get that covered soon.
Yeah, this is Mary Jessie. We met her actually when the Presbyterian and United Churches did the gathering that I had talked about in my introduction. They had it last June. It would have been June 2014, where they invited representatives from all the bands where the students came from. There was 43 communities, and but some of those communities don't exist anymore. Some of them amalgamated, and there's about 39 communities now. And she, along with other members of the Concerned Citizens Working Group, did a whole bunch of research that they very generously shared with us.
Mary Jessie was one of those people who came from being kind of an acquaintance through the RIIS topic and the different groups that were going on there. But she truly became a really good friend, and I was really happy. She sent pictures of her grandchild to us. And it shows the kind of meaningful connections we were making with our storytellers, is we weren't only there to take the story from them, we were there to build a long-term relationship where we got to know them and we would go back to them. And we still go back to them. We would actually like to do a little more work with Mary Jessie, learning more about the topic and sharing her work with everyone. So
we also wanted to honor all the non-Indigenous people who were working very hard. I mean, they were this is their free time. This isn't something that's part of their job or anything like that. And we actually met Mary Jessie after there was kind of a break where nothing was really happening with any of the groups or the production, where we were working through some things. And when we got back to it and we met Mary Jessie, like, we had been through quite a long, intense, emotional journey. And when we met her at Stone's Throw, this coffee house, she actually ended up crying. And we saw how her and some other people went up on a deeply personal journey as well as us throughout this process.
I think part of it is they're also learning this history for the first time, because part of how residential school and these systematic practices of alienating and taking away culture and genociding peoples, you don't see it in the media, you don't see it covered. When I first started my research project talking about residential school, people called me crazy, and that was only 10 years ago. So that just tells you that now that people are understanding through the Truth and Reconciliation that there is a voice, and they're starting to learn it again. So I think we've been aware of that through our journey as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is David McLennan. He is a former member of the Municipal Heritage Advisory Committee. So he's a bit of a local historian. He's written a book and traveled extensively throughout Saskatchewan. And what I found really interesting about him was he acknowledged that, because of his traveling around the country, and I think he said that his dad took him to L'Orange fishing and that kind of thing, that he always knew that there was two different narratives in the province in regards to history. There was the settler one, and then there was the First Nations one. This is David McLeod and Lisa Hine from Stantec. We were out there the day that they were doing an EMR scan to see how many graves were outside of the fence. And they did, I think, 15 feet to the south and the east and the north.
And what they found was 6 additional anomalies just on the outside, which suggests there's 6 more graves.
Mm-hmm. So there's 45 known graves altogether.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if there was more. Oh.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the journey of the RIIS commemorative, is there's so many options, I guess is the word, to what could happen with that site. And there's so many ways that people want to honor. And so in doing so, there was a lot of people who were coming forward and trying to help to get this going, but also to share the news, because that's why we chose Amnesia, because no one really knew about it.
Yeah, and we actually included a lot of the errors that people were making, or like in another short documentary, our student kept the wording kept changing for Regina Indian Industrial School to Regina Indian Residential Boarding School, and there were some of our interviewees that were giving some of the wrong facts, and we didn't interrupt anybody, but we kept those because it just showed how forgotten this history is, that nobody quite has it all right.
Yeah, I think we all kind of fill in each other's gaps, and McLennan was a great one. I could have actually made the whole documentary about McLennan and all the different journey he's been through. He carried this torch for a long time before we ever walked in. Mm-hmm. And I got a sense of what that weight was. And after about a year and a half myself, I know what that weight is. So I think we're moving faster now than we've been moving before. And I think this movie helped create and to generate a genuine compassion from outside audiences. So we've got a lot of response from citizens here in Regina and even outside into the different communities. And that's actually bringing us back to Lisa here. That's why I really connected with her, is because right away she just acknowledged their children. And I didn't get involved with this for any kind of gain. I was asked to help with this process, and what really connected me with is there is children in there, and I think we often forget that. And I think in our journey through the tough times, that's what I had to remind myself, because I remember we had a really tough day one time, and I said we have to go to the site and we have to be there and put tobacco down, and to remind ourselves why we came and why we started, because it's easy to get lost in politics, and I don't even want to say I know anything about politics, but I'm trying to learn this year. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and that's like that one day that we were editing, and we were having a lot of problems and couldn't quite figure a way out of it, and we ended up going to the site, leaving some tobacco, and just spending some time there with the children. And then the next day, it was like the best editing day we had. We got so much done, and all of that stress of what was happening went away. This is Mark Dieter. He's one of the originators of the project. He's an incredibly talented writer and actor, and I guess he's also looking into getting into producing.
He was actually my mom's role model. When I told my mom that we were working and Mark Dieter was a part of the project, she said when she first moved to Regina about, I don't know, must have been 20 years ago. And Mark was one of the first people that she met, and he was in the middle of the highlight of his acting career, and he was doing theater and performance. And she said that that was someone who was happy doing his craft. And so I know he's had a journey over the years, but I think in the time we've known him, I've seen him grow even just from where we first met him. He's come a long way. And I know this project, being a personal project, is a hard one. Not everyone can look into their own family and be able to speak upon it in a very deep and thoughtful way. But I think, him giving us the history and starting to shed some of those layers helped me get to know Mark a lot more and to see him as, a very, really awesome creative person and really good friend now.
This is Maggie Dieter McLeod. She's with the United Church of Canada. She's also Mark's aunt. And some of our team members interviewed her at the Edmonton National TRC event, March 2014.
Yeah, she's talking about arranged marriages here, and that's something that we have in our family history on my mom's side. There's a lot of arranged marriages that took place, and they were also part of an earlier industrial school, but out in Quebec. So I think that practice was one where they were really trying to create a new society of First Nations people. So they wouldn't want them to get married to someone who didn't have the teachings that they were implementing in the schools.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we found too, talking to a lot of descendants, is realizing how many people came from two different students.
Yeah, and also what I learned through this project too, just in relation to family and family structures, a lot of the students were descendants of chiefs and headmen, and back in pre-colonial is a lot of people were a family and it was an inherent responsibility. And so they were hereditary chiefs, and they would be trained right from an early age to understand that responsibility and what they were growing up towards. And so in my family too, that's our bloodline. I have a great grandfather who is chief blacksmith of the Waswanipi Reserve, and he was there for 30 years, and they said that that's the longest running chief they've had since. And so I know with my mom too, she always taught me how to be a leader, and she guides us even through this project. And in life too, she's always told me that I have a responsibility. So I think that's why I run 100 nonprofits. I'm just kidding. But I think that understanding is when I learned about this project is by taking those teachings away from people, you disrupt the societal structure of the way cultures were taught and implemented. It's Sunday morning, by the way.
It's actually Sunday afternoon, but it feels like the morning.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that's the biggest thing I learned is just how easy it is to disrupt a people in their ways. And I think we've seen a lot of people were able to kind of go through both worlds and to understand these two different ways. And once they found balance, they were able to give back to their people and also to kind of walk with one foot in this other road. And nobody can say they were never colonialized. That's one thing that I've always learned. But we can always walk back to our teachings. So I can close my eye and see the world one way, and I think I'm becoming more awake to that traditional self.
Yeah. This is Mona Dieter. Mark wanted to take us out to Frederick's farm, and Mona is the current resident of the farm. So she made clear in the beginning that she was just married into the stories, and we were just there to kind of soak it all in and get Mark talking with her about the family history.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being out in the space because I've seen Frederick's land photos in the archive room, and I spent a lot of time in the archives. I love doing that type of research. So when you get to see something and then actually go out onto the site, it really brings it to life, and that connection to Frederick and his I feel like I know Frederick just as much as I know Mark in a way. And through Mona, I learned a little bit more about the descendants of where Frederick and how they led to Mark and the journey that it took, because she was quite open about her relationship with him. And so you see how the cycles had impacted family, but what I really got a sense of was the love they had for and respect for each other while we were out there. And I think that's what makes family survivors when it comes to it's just how well we can keep ourselves together.
Yeah, and it was good that she's talking about some of the history that happened with Frederick's descendants, because one of the things that this was the thing that was really important to me, was that we not have it be a historical documentary set in the past, and that this is all ancient history and finished. I wanted to really show that the impact of the Regina Indian Industrial School had filtered down through the generations, and it's still affecting not just the students, but Regina in general. This is Doug Stewart. He's a member of the United Church. He's also a member of the Concerned Citizens group that became a friend and an important resource.
Yeah, he was one of those quiet people who were at every meeting, and you notice them because they have a presence, but until we started talking and getting to know him, and until the focus group we had for RIIS for Amnesia at the film pool, I started to feel more of a connection to him, and he's been integral to helping the RIIS Commemorative Association too. And he's quite open to just saying that I'm just here to offer what I can, but you guys lead the way because I'm just here to help. I think he gets a little shy. We go to him for information lots.
Yeah, I can sense there's a bit of apprehension from the church members, because I can tell that it comes from a place of, I want to help, but our church has done so much damage already. How do I do this so that I'm not offending anybody or, stepping on anybody's toes?
And I think they've created meaningful relationships with not only both of us, but other people in First Nations community. And I think that's really the key to reconciliation, is these friendships and these relationships that are building. That's the only way you can see each other as people and not as different society structures, because we're trained to see people that way. Our heart wants to see us as people, but we tend to get caught in that world where we see these labels that we have been given, and we often have to live through those labels too. So I can see putting my feet on the other side, how awkward that would be to step forward and try and help in a different way that's not in that worldview.
Yeah, and we did talk too about that all of the history that we're sharing here is coming from the European descendants of the settlers that came here. And I think the way we thought about it was like they were giving the history back.
Yeah, and Doug here spent a lot of time not only in the Saskatchewan archives, but we've seen him at the TRC in Ottawa. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure he said he went to Edmonton. I could be wrong. But I know he's been following the journey of the TRC. And then also I understand that he spent a lot of time connecting to these stories he's sharing here.
Yeah, he was also in the National Archives in Ottawa researching this.
And so I find that because of that dedication that he shared and the stories that he got from there, he shared with us and handed them back, I feel like that's kind of a good step forward, especially when the federal government didn't want to hand over so many documents to the TRC earlier last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a part that really impacts people. Because the school was so long ago, we, of course, don't have any living descendants or living students to talk to, so it was really important for him to relay those stories of abuse from the school.
This missionary, Moore, cites in his letters to the Foreign Missions Committee.
My grandpa Joseph Trevor, my grandpa.
Anthony Johnston, we love Anthony. He was our host when we were in Mistawassus, That would have been around this time last year.
Yeah.
Early September 2014. We spent a couple of days in Mr. Wasis, and Anthony showed us around. This is the only Presbyterian church operating on a First Nation across Canada.
I really liked visiting this site here. Mm-hmm. We went to the grave site so that we could meet Anthony's family. And he talks about Chief Mr. Wasis and his relationship to the treaties and how that's important to him. A treaty is a relationship between two sides, and so he's very aware of that as well. And he talks about a little bit of family history in terms of when they had the rebellion, and like this was with us that, you know, he was sharing a little bit about they wanted to honor that treaty. And so we heard another story too with Mark Dieter and what happened during there. So it seemed like there was different things happening, and it's almost like relearning the history, but from a more personal way, because I've only read stuff in textbooks that led me to believe that everyone was on the side of the rebellion. But after talking to people had different ways of doing things, and not everyone agreed with violence as the first option.
Yeah, and that's like one of the other things with Anthony was he is very big on education, and that was something that he talked a lot about, Chief Mr. Wasis, like why he signed the treaty, and what he insisted on was he was a big believer in education. And one of the things we learned about Anthony and from Anthony is that he shared that he didn't go to residential school, and he's in that age where he should have. And he said that it was because his family was traveling so much. They were never in one place long enough for him to be taken to residential school. So he's incredibly fortunate that way.
Yeah, he also has a great sense of honoring both worldviews, because I've been working with him on the RIIS commemorative. He's a member of the association, and so he's shared a lot about how we have to work together. And that's something we've been discussing too, is we've been kind of having so many different groups do so many different things that we're now ready to start talking about ourselves as one group now, who are all concerned for the children. And that's been something that's been really tough all year. And so I think that really shows that now we're ready for this kind of reconciliation moment and to honor that site. And so, yeah, these have been, like, these storytellers have kind of, we've all have crossover paths. We all been doing more than one thing to help the cause, and Anthony's one of them. And we're going back to take the film to him and to screen in his community. So we're looking forward to that. Yeah, he also talks about his family being part of the First World War I, and I got a lot of family too that they've all been in the world wars. And so just recently, one of them has been in the news for being one of the code talkers speaking Cree, and I know that's been kept secret from Canadian history, but it's been part of the family history. So I can connect to what he's talking about, because we all have these narratives that we go to when it comes to the family. And then as we build relationships, we share those narratives. Just like I was always saying, Trudy, tell everybody how you got your camera. That's become a narrative in our friendship over the years. So yeah, I remember this day, though. It was a really nice day. He really took us on a nice tour, and we did the radio show. Mm-hmm. And we were really well, I guess we were really well documented on Facebook that day, he said. People were taking photos of us, and I've never seen them because I don't have any mutual friends that I might have seen them from, but he was letting us know that we were well received in the community.
Oh, that's real. Yeah, it's just too bad that there was so much stuff that we had to cut out. I mean, we just have piles and piles of gold that we had to leave on the cutting room floor.
When school finished one year, they were waiting for the sons and daughters to return.
And one of the things that I really appreciate about Anthony is his dedication to education. And it seems like, I think we talked about this, where he's, in a way, carrying on Chief Mr. Wass's vision, his great-great-grandfather.
I think that's also a misconception, is that we didn't want education. I think we wanted education, but we wanted to be who we are too. And I'm happy we're able to be that way. Just like Brad here, he was someone that carries that contemporary energy, and but he's singing about traditional kind of stories.
Yeah, no, this was an amazing song. We were really, really fortunate to get Brad on board and have him share this.
Yeah, we just finished working on his music video this week, so we were shooting his family story history in this song, and he took us to LeBret, and we had a wonderful time shooting that one. We were actually up on the hill too during magic hour, which he mistakenly was telling everybody was happy hour. So we're like, no, happy hour up there.
Yeah, no, this was a really great day. It was actually raining that morning, and Lisa Dusty Horn is the organizer of the march. She's the one who's going to be carrying the sign here. And I just had
Well, Lisa's been someone I follow on Facebook. She's going through quite a journey herself, and what I really like about her is her genuine energy she has for why she put this march together, why she organized the feast, and she keeps often saying how proud she is of us for all the work we're doing on this topic. And so
that's nice.
She's coming from a very genuine place, and this walk really brought that sense of ceremony. Like, it made me feel like I was doing something for those children. And I think when you're making films, you need these moments to bring you back and ground you, because you can get lost in the industry, the film world, the arts world, this whole political world here. That this was one of the highlight moments of the year for me.
Yeah, and this was me. I was marching with everybody with my camera. But yeah, maybe we should talk about that too, about how we originally started, and it was more of a run by an industry production company, and just in order to maintain the original spirit and intent, we had to make some difficult decisions and to change that so that there was it was more community oriented, and we incorporated RIIS Media Project as a nonprofit and brought on more artists. But Janine and I both felt very strongly that we didn't want to be seen as the voice or the authority of the school, because we were also conscious that we're both Northerners. We're both from Treaty 6, but I was adopted out and grew up in Treaty 4 territory. So we really wanted to bring in, especially descendants, but a lot of Treaty 4 artists to get a lot of different perspectives of the school.
Yeah, and definitely his song brought it all into perspective, because right now as you're talking, I'm listening to the story that he's singing, and we've been editing quite a bit, so I think it's stuck in my head too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here we got Lisa again, and I think in this interview was one of the most kind of genuine moments of getting to know her. And, you know, I didn't want to put her on the cutting room floor, because I think she's coming from a nice place and she's asking the right questions, like what you were saying before, is why isn't anyone stepping up? And she keeps asking those questions, and then all of a sudden I was doing the same thing too. We were both going to all these committees saying who's the one we talk to get moving forward on this and how can we help. And then next thing you know, I got asked by the First Nations working group to help lead the new commemorative. And Trudy knows if someone asks me, I have trouble saying no if it's a good cause. And so I'm honored that they asked me, and I'm really kind of looking forward to getting some sort of closure on it, and hope that I can help honor all these storytellers. And he was actually one person too who
Chief Kennedy,
who put us on the committee. He asked Trudy too, but Trudy's got a lot of responsibility. But I said yes, and so I think it's been great.
I'm still there.
She still goes to the meetings.
Yeah, but people like Chief Kennedy and the other people that we've interviewed, it's been because we kept showing up to the meetings, like if there was a meeting at City Hall to talk about the site, we would go. And when there was a working group meeting or the gathering, we would go. And we kept seeing the same people over and over. And yeah, that's, I think, how you got wrangled into being the president of the organization. Chief Kennedy said, he pointed to our little corner and said, these people are always here. And it was me, you, Anthony, and I can't remember who else, maybe Doug or maybe Bob. Yeah, Bob Ivanachko.
He's awesome. He's like a good friend now, too.
Yeah.
I think he gets a little self-conscious when I keep pointing him out when we're doing live events at our world premiere. I'm like, there he is. There's Bob.
Yeah, we kind of look to them when we're doing screenings and people are asking questions. We just kind of double check with them to make sure that we're giving the right information.
Yeah, and Chief Kennedy was kind of key to bringing the organization to life. He's the one who said we need to start an organization so that we can get our job done. And I think what his mom said was very powerful, is that these bureaucratic systems were there and somehow we have to get ourselves through there. And so by creating a commemorative, we got a nonprofit set up, and that helps so that we can generate a business to help kind of seek out those objectives and goals. Mm-hmm. But she was also said they left us with a lot of paperwork.
Yeah. This is James Daschuk. He was out for the memorial walk. Author of Clearing the Plains.
Yeah, I think he points out what I've been always repeating is sometimes you just got to go to the site. Mm-hmm. Anytime I've talked to someone, even reporters over the year, I've had a few of them who said right after the interview they went to visit Pinky Road. I think when you walk on that land and you see the site and you see that it's unmarked, you start to kind of mourn for those children and feel that sadness that Lynn here carries out very well in what she's talking about. And so
yeah, and one thing that we learned about that stone, I mean, you see the diamond shape on top of it, but actually it's part of a larger stone underneath. And what happened to some of those crosses, the graves that were marked by wooden crosses, the erosion has come in and built up around, the tree, and, so it's covered that big stone marker.
And here's another song of Brad's that we included. I remember the first time I said, hey, let's play another one of his songs, and she never listened to it. And then we came to Mark's studio here where we're sitting now, and she heard it on the speakers he had going, and then she realized, hey, this actually is perfect. And so I just like this song. But I find after the film and you get everyone all emotional, I would see people kind of jump, and this song kind of pricks their ears.
Yeah, we sadly through this process we lost two very good friends and two women who did an incredible piece called Dancing the Space in Between for us. And Lacey's mom let us use her music. And also we should probably thank our team, especially Jody. Jody Payant is our good friend and savior. She's one of the original team members, and she's been, I think, the only one that's been there from the very, very beginning until the end. Well, Mark too, but I mean, Jody was, she's on the board. She's did a whole lot behind the scenes to help us out. And also Bill Wall is a member of our board.
And he's a member of the United Church. He's been really great for kind of helping keep that connection with the church strong. And
and Eagle Claw Tom, he is another savior of ours. He came along at a time that was, we were a especially difficult time, and just saved us, because he could do all these amazing things and created a new logo for us and a website. And
I even told him when he walks in, it's like, oh, I can't do it, but it's like
Yeah, he's become a very important member of the team, even though he came in kind of late. But there was also Peter Brass. He's also a descendant of Frederick Dieter and Mary Beth Cody. He edited together some of the story bundles. So if you were wanting to hear more from, David McLennan, go to our site, and there's stories that Peter edited together. There was also Lacey and Michelle that did Dancing the Space in Between. There's Aisha Mosen, who created 5 monologues from a perspective of a new Canadian learning about the residential school experience. Louise Big Eagle, who did I Am a Boy.
And not to mention Jolie Big Eagle, who's on the board and has been a big support as we went through this project.
Yeah, so sorry if we didn't mention you.
We got it.
It's been a long year and a half.
And thank you, Mark, for doing all the audio. We mentioned some of the struggles we put him through with our choices of land, but he was very patient with us. So
yeah, but no, he made it better. We brought it all finished, picture locked, and he added all the beginning music and everything. It just made it more epic.
Yes, I remember the first time we heard it too. I was like, wow, we sound more awesome than I felt.
Thank you, everybody, for watching.